Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 DraftKings prep show in all of the land. I'm your host, Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this very episode, we're going to be breaking down all 12 fights happening this Saturday, July 9th at UFC Vegas 58, headlined by Rafael dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev. From a DraftKings perspective, guys, this is going to be a very stat-heavy episode, and we'll try to blaze through these fights in about 45 minutes or so. Get you all set up to get those takedowns for UFC Vegas 58. First things first, if you play DFS of any kind, get on over to teamriseorfall.com and check out what we have going on over there. If you play DFS, like I said, of any sport, we have experts in the Discord giving out advice, strategies. We're posting winning tickets over there constantly from both the experts and the customer side of things. It is fantastic. 24 hours a day, you have access to anything and everything. Someone's always live over there to talk shop with any sport, like I said. So, guys, if you're interested in that, use code MONK, M-O-N-K, at teamriseorfall.com. Save yourself $10 on a subscription today and start getting those takedowns. Teamriseorfall.com, use code MONK, M-O-N-K, save yourself a bit of money. And I think that's going to do it, guys. Possibly check out the MMA Engine. Like and subscribe that channel over there. And we will get right into the first fight of the night. It's going to be Ronnie Lawrence taking on Saidyokub Kakhramonov, guys. This one is a very interesting fight. Long story short, Ronnie Lawrence is a must-play in DraftKings. He's probably the best scorer on the card so far. He only has 2 fights, but just under 28 minutes of total fight time. He's coming in at $8,400 this week, $550 under his average. And what do you get for that? Oh, no big deal. Just 6.93 raw DraftKings points per minute, 133.17 per win. Only allowing 2.45 points back at him. Average value of just under 15. The guy's made the optimal in both of his UFC fights so far. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. He scores from everywhere. 2.08 points in striking, 1.09 knockdown points per minute, 2.5 takedown points a minute, over 1 point in control time per minute, and 0.18 in reversals. These are probably top numbers if he has at least 3 UFC fights, on the card, because I don't rank anybody that has less than 3 UFC fights. Let's take a look at the Saidyokub side. 7,800, not a bad salary. 2.99 points a minute, only 88.81 in his 1 UFC win. It did happen in the 3rd round, late in the 3rd round, actually, almost, right before time expired. 14.65 minutes of fight time. He's coming in $400 over his previous salary, average value of 12, so he had a decent showing there. Now look at the difference here in points per minute. He has no knockdown points, no reversal points. This is what I mean by 5-tool player, if you've heard me talking about that recently. Ronnie Lawrence is one of those 5-tool players. Saidyokub has 2 categories at 0, so that's kind of what I mean by that. Strength of schedule is close. You want these to be 70 to 75. Anything over is fantastic. Anything less is obviously subpar. Ronnie Lawrence winning this category, but not even 70 across the board, and Said is below that. Lawrence has 2 fights against decent opponents, Mana Martinez and Vince Cachero, and Saidyokub going against Trevin Jones. I believe that might have been on short notice. I don't remember, but he did get the sub. Did not score very well. 88 points in a 3rd round win. Meanwhile, Ronnie Lawrence, 131 and 134. One of those was a decision, 131 points. The other was a 3rd round knockout TKO. So he is scoring. There is no issue there. Here are my projections. Obviously, vastly different between the two. DraftKings visual statistical recap. And then the aggregate career and UFC finishing percentages. Guys, stick around. At the end of the card, or at the end of the video, we will be bringing you CM Monk's picks for this card. And if you're interested in the recap for last week, I usually do that at the beginning of the episode. I now have a recap show on the MMA Engine. I will try to link it in the description if I remember to do that. That's going to be a stretch for me, though. But check that out. MMA Engine channel on YouTube, just MMA space Engine, and you will see a show called The Morning After and a picture of CM Monk on it. That is the recap show for UFC 276, I believe it was. So go ahead and check that out. It's about 20 minutes. We go over see amongst picks. We go over the DraftKings optimal lineup, and we just kind of chill out for about 20 minutes talking about fights. So check that out. Excuse me, make sure I'm unmuted here. How am I playing this? Well, 8,400 for the best scorer on the card is a fantastic deal. You got to get Ronnie Lawrence in your GPP lineups. You absolutely have to. You could play a bit of Saeed. He doesn't quite score 3 points a minute in his one fight. I'm much higher on Lawrence. I'll have a bit of Kakhramonov as well in GPPs. Probably not playing this one for cash, just because I don't really know what's going to happen, except for Ronnie Lawrence is going to shoot 55 takedowns, and he does also have power, so I mean, this guy can do it from everywhere seemingly. I'll be on the Lawrence side, and I'll be playing a crap load of him in DraftKings. Next fight. Second fight of the night. Kennedy Nzechukwu going against Karl Roberson. 8,200 and 8,000. We'll start with the Roberson side. Actually, this fight all around, I'm not too interested for GPPs. Both guys scoring very low, 2.47 points a minute for Roberson, only 82 when he wins, and he is 4-5 in the UFC. He gives up 2.77 a minute and 110 when he loses. Wow, that will definitely put me on the Nzechukwu side for sure. Roberson coming in 267 under his average salary. What else do we have here? We'll go over to the Nzechukwu side. 8,200, like I said, he has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 4 fights. 3-3 UFC record, scores even less than Roberson. 2.15 points a minute, 73.5 when he wins. Gives up a ton of points, 3.34 a minute, but he seems pretty durable. Only been finished twice in the UFC. 81.93 points per loss is all his opponents are scoring when they win. And he is 117 over his average salary, so nothing crazy there. What other numbers are jumping out at me? Only one of Roberson's 4 UFC wins he's put up over 90. His opponents, however, Roberson's opponents in 5 losses have put up 100 DraftKings points in all 5 of those losses, 110 or more in 3 of them. So, man, the Roberson is just giving his opponents tons of scoring upside, I guess is how I would phrase that. Nobody's scoring too well. I mean, Roberson does have stats in all 5 categories, but his striking and knockdowns are very low. He's out of the top 10 in both of those categories. Let's see here. Some stats. Strength of schedule is vastly different. Actually, both guys have a decent strength of schedule, but Kennedy's is a bit better. Better opponent pro record in his last 5. Losses to Da Un-jung, who is no joke. I believe he's 15-2. And then Nick Negumariano, Nicky Gums, as I like to call him, 12-1, I believe, in the UFC. So pretty decent records there with wins over Stosic, Olberg, which has aged a bit better recently, and then Danilo Marquez. Roberson dropped his last 3 against Vittori, Allen, and Roundtree Jr. So safe to say, loser leaves town match, possibly. Roberson going to be fighting for that new contract, I bet. Here are my projections, pretty low, as you would imagine. Visual statistical recap, pretty even there. Pretty decent real estate for both guys, with Roberson getting the big edge in grappling points per win for sure. And here are my aggregate career and UFC finishing percentages. Pretty high. I bet Computer Monk is thinking this one finishes inside the distance. Stay tuned to find out. How do I want to play this? You have to play Roberson. If you know, what was his last fight? What did I say? I didn't really play a ton of him in that Roundtree fight. Actually, I must be misremembering things. I don't know what I'm thinking. He's dropped 3 in a row. You always got to look out for that sub, I guess. He's got 2 wins in the UFC by sub. I'll be much higher on the Nzechukwu side because of what Roberson gives up. I mean, everybody's scoring 100 points against him when they win. So you have to play Nzechukwu. I'd have a bit of Roberson too, just because Nzechukwu has been finished by both Caio and sub in the UFC. So, I mean, not too excited about this fight. It'll probably be sloppy, probably end in a finish. And for that reason, I'll be on both sides. Bit higher on Nzechukwu because of what Roberson gives up. 110 in a loss and over 100 points in all 5 of his losses for his opponents. So this fight, third fight of the night, just got added. I think it's the third fight anyways. Things could change. David Onama gets a replacement opponent. I forget who dropped out off the top of my head, but he gets Garrett Armfield, a fighter he has fought in the past. I believe his last amateur fight was against Armfield, and he did get that win in a unanimous decision. Both guys have gone on to, pretty pretty decent pro career so far. Armfield 8-2 record. Onama 9-1. Onama, I think, is going to be 9,300. There are no salaries for this fight out yet, but 93 and 69 are the only salaries left that it could possibly be. Unless DraftKings decides to double up the salary. So I guess it's a safe assumption to say 93 for Onama and 69 for Armfield. Onama has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 2 fights. I believe it was his last fight when he did win against Gabriel Benitez in the first round. Very impressive at 8,400. He is coming in 1750 over his average salary, so you are really paying up for that knockout win in his last fight, but for decent reason. 3.47 points a minute, 114 in that win. Like I said, gives up almost 6 points a minute, though a lot of that was Mason Jones, 126 in that loss. But he did give up, where are we at here? Opponent, DraftKings points per minute in the Gabriel Benitez fight. Benitez put up 4.18 points a minute. So Onama is giving up tons of points. I have no stats for Armfield here. He has 8. All 8 of his wins are finishes. That should be noted. Same with Onama. All 9 of his wins are finishes. So 100% finish rate here. It's, probably a good bet that this one finishes inside the distance, but sometimes those fights, they respect each other too much, blah, 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 and it ends up going the distance. So very good scoring for Onama. Obviously a very low sample size. He's either scoring tons of points or he's giving up a ton of points. Like I said, no stats here. Let's look at strength of schedule, which I do have stats for Armfield. In his last 5, he is 4-1. And a pretty poor strength of schedule, almost under 60 in all categories here. Onama, pretty poor strength of schedule as well, right above 60. 91 strength of defeat with that loss to Mason Jones there. So, that is probably going to age pretty well, but it's still a loss. DraftKings points per minute graph, pretty, you don't need to look at that. We only have a couple of fights here. And then the fight projections, whatever you think is going to happen, here's how I think it will score. And then DraftKings visual statistical recap and finishing percentages. Very high as far as finishes, like we said. We'll have to see what Computer Monk thinks. I guess I'll be on the Onama side a bit, even at 9,300. Pretty high score, but he does give up a ton of points. That means Armfield is pretty live for me. I think this line should probably be not so wide. I don't know what the actual line is. It's not out on best fight odds yet, which is why we don't have salaries here, most likely. I don't mind punting with Armfield here. Onama's still very young in his career. Both have 10 professional fights, and the gap between salaries is far too wide. So I don't mind the punt with Armfield here if he is going to be $6,900. I mean, the guy kept it close with Onama in their fight before. Could happen again. Who knows? Onama, though, probably, statistics and probability say Onama's going to come out here and get the job done. But I don't mind the punt with Armfield here. I'll have a bit of both. Probably equal amounts, actually. There's a few $9,000 guys that I really like this week. Next fight, Cody Brundage. Keep an eye out on the MMA Engine later today. Cody Brundage might be a name you will see again. Going against Tresean Gore. We'll start with the Gore side. I don't really understand what's going on here. Gore 8,300 to the dog salary of Brundage at 79. Both guys with not a ton of UFC experience, obviously. Gore 0-1 in the UFC. 2.73 points a minute against when he took on, Brian Battle. Gave up 3.81, 87 when he lost. He's coming in exactly at his salary from last time. Brundage has made the optimal lineup in 1 out of his past 2 fights. $7,900, 1.53 points a minute. Very low volume, but ended up with 97 in his win. Gave up almost 5 points a minute so far in the UFC. 96 in his loss, and he's coming in $100 over his average. Not a big deal. He did put up over 90 in his 1 UFC win and gave up over 90 in his UFC loss. Let's see. Allows 2.42 points per minute in takedowns and control time. Meanwhile, Tresean Gore in his 1 UFC fight put up, 0.82 points a minute in those categories, so not too bad. Here are the relevant fight stats. I mean, can't really put much stock into him, as obviously the very low UFC time. 3-2 in the last 5 for Brundage, 3-1 for Tresean Gore, as he only has 4 professional fights, guys. And is this going to be like an Alex Pajeda situation where 4 or 6 professional fights and you come out and you beat Sean Strickland? Probably not. I'm going to have to see it from Tresean Gore. his strength of schedule is probably the worst, not probably, the worst on the card. His last 5 opponent win percentage, 14%. They are 2-12 combined, his opponents. 2-12. Actually, that can't be right. What's Brian Battle's record? That can't be right. Here, let's take a look with me at my strength of schedule numbers. We have to look at this. I had to have put this in wrong. Where is he? Tresean Gore. 7, no? That's accurate. No, it's not. Where did I get that number? That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to have to look at my math. Either way, his strength of schedule is terrible. Brundage with a win over Dalcha. Lost to Nick Maximov in his UFC debut. Here are my projections, very low across the board. Actually, Tresean, if he gets a finish, he'll get some decent numbers, but those are mostly, it's only one fight, like I said, 15 minutes worth of fight time. Here are the finishing percentages. I don't know how I'm leaning here. I'll have a bit of both, but Brundage with the finish win definitely goes further in my mind, so I'll probably have a bit more Brundage at the underdog salary. And also he's made the optimal lineup, but I'll have a bit of Gore as well. Definitely not touching this for cash. Just too much inexperience across the board, especially for Gore. 3-1, only 4 fights in his pro career. Definitely raising some red flags for me. Antonina Shevchenko going against Courtney Casey. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this one. $8,700 for Shevchenko here. 2.53 points a minute, 92 when she wins. She gives up 4 points a minute and 118.5 when she loses. This is over 4 UFC losses. Average value of 6. Not interested. Courtney Casey, 7,500. Not a great score. 2.47 a minute, 92 also when she wins. Gives up 3.5 per minute and 85 when she loses. So a much different number per loss. She's also coming in 591 under her average salary. Average value almost a point better. I don't like anything about this fight. Casey 6-8 in the UFC. Shevchenko 3-4. Shevchenko giving up a ton of points when she loses. Casey not so much. So maybe that's how I'll kind of play this. I'll be more on the Casey side because of how many points Shevchenko gives up. But I am not impressed with this fight at all. Strength of schedule is trash for Courtney Casey. 10 points higher in a few of these categories for Shevchenko. So that's what she has going for with losses to the undefeated Casey O'Neill. Andrea Lee loss. That was a bad look. And a Caitlin Chukagian loss in her last 3. Meanwhile, Casey dropping fights to Aldrich, Roberson, and Cynthia Calvillo, who's also on this card. Maybe? Am I imagining that? I guess we'll find out. Yeah, very low projections across the board here unless somebody gets a finish, which I'm not really expecting. We'll see what Computer Monk has to say about it. Casey only been finished once in her 8 UFC losses. Shevchenko finished twice in her 4 losses. So yeah, I'm going to be on the Casey side. I don't like it, but you get some salary relief, 7,500. Shevchenko is pretty much unplayable at 8,700 here unless she gets a finish win, which, like I said, Casey only been finished once in her 8 UFC losses, so I'm not expecting that at all. Shevchenko has finished 2 out of 3 of her UFC wins, but still not against Lipsky and Pudilova, sub and a KO. So I mean, not really expecting that. I guess you can have a little Shevchenko, but 8,700 is a ridiculous price for her. I'll be on the Courtney Casey side. Next fight, Ayman Zahabi going against Ricky Turcios. Second fight in the UFC for Ricky, $8,800. He did make the optimal in his last fight against, I believe it was Tresean Gore. No, that was Brian Battle. Against Brady Heistand, who not a good fighter, it doesn't seem like. Turcios with huge padded stats because of that win against Heistand. Almost 6 a minute, almost 120 is what he put up. He did manage to give up 5.23 points a minute, so keep an eye on that. 8,800 is going to probably be too much for me to pay here. Let's look at Ayman Zahabi, 7,400. His offense is crap. His defense is what I'm looking at. 2.52 points a minute is what he allows, and only 71 per loss for his opponents. He's lost to Morales, gave up, where are we at here? How many points did he give up? 23 plus 30, only 53. And then Ramos, what's that? 45 and 43 is 88. So not a bad look there defensively for Zahabi. So that's kind of how I'll be looking at this. Does give up a ton of takedown and control time points per minute, though. Not a ton, but a decent amount. 0.67 per minute. Meanwhile, Turcios scoring just about a point a minute in those categories, so I'd be on the lookout for that. Also, giving up almost 3 points a minute to Brady Highstand on the ground. Yikes. Strength of schedule is definitely going to Zahabi, and it's not even close. At least 5-6 points above in every category. Wins over Draco Rodriguez and Reginaldo Vieira. Let's see here. Projections, not very high for either guy. I guess Turcios are pretty high, but I expect this one to probably go to decision. Not much to say about this fight. The defense or the lack of scoring for Zahabi's opponents is what I'm looking at here. If he is able to hold Ricky to 70, 80, 90 points, that $8,800 salary is not going to pay off. I don't want to play either of these guys in GPP, so I'm probably just going to fade this fight as a whole. I guess I'll have a bit of Ricky, but I need to see more of it before I can play him, especially at that price of $8,800 is ridiculous. Zahabi not doing anything offensively, like I said, but defensively he is holding it down, it seems like. There's Cynthia Calvillo. I knew she was on this card. 6th fight of the night, or 7th? 7th fight of the night. 2, 3, yep. Oh, shit, I didn't mute. But I'm also not going to talk while I'm muted, so that helps. Cynthia Calvillo going against Nina Nunes. 4-4 for Nunes. Let's start with her. $7,700. One of the best salaries you can play. I believe the 5th best salary you can play according to Salary Voodoo. Check that out. Now live on the MMA Engine. And it's like the best underdog salary, obviously. 2.47 points a minute for Nunes. 76 when she wins. Not interested there. 2.8 is what she gives up, 90 per loss, and her coming in about where she is average salary, blah, blah, blah. She has not fought in 452 days, so a year and 3 months, basically. So I'm not too interested in her from the offensive side of things. Let's check out Cynthia Calvillo at $8,500, 2.86 points a minute, which somehow is good enough to be the 3rd best number on the card with fighters that have at least 3 UFC fights. 91 when she wins. Defensively, pretty good, allowing just 1.94 points per minute and 84.5 when she loses. And she's got a 6-4-1 record, so pretty decent sample size. Average value of 7.6. Also coming in barely over her average salary, which is what we like to see. Half of her 6 wins, so 3 wins over 100. Pretty good there. Meanwhile, Nunes only scoring over 90 in just 1 of her fights. So again, not very much offensive scoring upside on the Nunes underdog side. That said, I mean, look at Calvillo's last 3 fights here. Lost to Shukagian, pretty close fight. Gets demolished by Andrade. And then Andrea Lee smashes her somehow, and she doesn't even come out for the 3rd round. Like, she was just done. So it's getting progressively worse for Cynthia Calvillo. That said, can you fade her against Nina Nunes? Hasn't fought in a year and 3 months. Lost to very good competition in her last 5, being Tatiana Suarez and Mackenzie Dern. Did get a win over Claudia Gadelha. That seems impossible, but it did happen, apparently. Angela Hill and Randa Marcos. I mean, the strength of schedule is not even close for the most part. I don't know what to do here. Here are my fight projections. And then the visual statistical recap. Much more real estate for Calvillo, but Nunes is sticking out in the striking points and the last 5 strength of victory. Here are the aggregate finishing percentages. How are we playing this one? Well, like I said, these are very, very good salaries according to Salary Voodoo as far as making the optimal, especially the $7,700 side. And this is a women's flyweight fight, which makes the optimal more often than any other fight, any other weight class, rather. So I guess I'm going to have to play some Nunes here for the big upset. It would be a big upset to me if she gets a win here. Calvillo, I guess I'll have a little bit of her, but I'm just not impressed with either of these women as far as offensive pace or scoring per win. They're going to have to almost assuredly get a finish for them to come anywhere close to the optimal. I guess I'll probably be heavier on the Nunes side for the salary relief. The Salary Voodoo at 77 is fantastic. And Calvillo's really looked bad lately, so that said, Calvillo's going to come out here and absolutely smash Nunes. Watch, and then Nunes will retire, blah blah blah, and so it could go either way. I'll be on both sides, but I will be capping both sides. I'm not, maybe 20-25%. Even that seems really high. That seems really high, like 20-25% for both these fighters. Man. Man. There's just no offense here. I'm trying to justify the salary Voodoo with the stats, and it's just canceling out. So maybe it's just a fade. Maybe we fade the salary Voodoo this week. I don't know. I'm just not impressed with either one of those women offensively as far as DraftKings goes. Next fight, Michael Johnson coming back after just 53 days, less than 2 months of his demolishing of Alan Badeau. Alan Patrick, there we go. Jamie Mullarkey is his opponent, coming in at 9,100. I like this fight for DraftKings. Mullarkey, too. This is a high variance fight. Definition of a high variance fight. Mullarkey making the optimal in 2 out of his past 3 fights. $9,100, highest salary he's ever been, I believe. Yeah, 1,300 over his average salary. One of the best scorers on the card, guys. Check it out. 3.7 points a minute, number 1. 118 when he wins. This is over 2 UFC fights. Gives up a decent amount of points, though. 3.2 is what he allows, but only 85.93 when he loses. Value just under 9. I mean, he's got some good numbers here. Both of his wins over 100 points. One of them over 110. Let's take a look at the Michael Johnson side of things, who has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 2 fights. That would have been the Alan Patrick fight. 7,100 for Michael Johnson. So if you're on that side, you're getting a huge deal on him, as he's coming in 1473 under his average salary. He only scores 2.4 points a minute and 83 when he wins. So for that reason, I'm not too interested in him, but Mullarkey has been KO'd once in his UFC career so far, so it is a possibility. Johnson giving up only 2.5 points a minute and 87 when he loses, so not giving up a ton there, but the scoring upside for Jamie Mullarkey is always present. Johnson only scoring over, 100 points in a third, so 4 out of 12 of his UFC fights he's put up over 100. What are we doing here? Mullarkey scores 1.64 points per minute in takedowns and control time, while Johnson gives up, 0.73 per minute in those categories. So that is something I will be looking out for. Mullarkey, when he wins, average bonus points of 92.5, which means he got a quick win in there somewhere, would have been against Worthy. Yep. Here are some statistics in the last 5. Pretty close when you put them all together. Pretty evenly matched fight. I believe the age here is going to be the big difference. Almost 9 years apart, 8.5 years apart, with obviously Mullarkey being the younger fighter. Last 5, Michael Johnson 1-4. This is where, this is where it starts to get bad. 2-3 for Mullarkey. So combined in our last, 7 fights, we are 9 fights, 3-7 or 10. 10 fights is the number I'm looking for. Guy that can't count. 3-7, so not good. Strength of schedule is going to go to Mullarkey, but it is pretty close. Johnson losing to Guida, Moises, Stevie Ray, and Josh Emmett. Meanwhile, Mullarkey losing to Jalen Turner, Faris Zaim, and Brad Riddell. So some decent losses there. Yeah, that Michael Johnson, I can't believe he got another chance after losing 4 in a row. Then he beats Alan Patrick by KO in the second round, and now he gets Jamie Mullarkey. Here are my projections. And then much higher real estate here for Mullarkey, as you would imagine. And then the UFC and career finishing rates right here. Yeah, how am I playing this? The upside of Jamie Mullarkey is huge, so you have to play that at 9,100, and Michael Johnson might come out here and do Michael Johnson things. That's always an option. So you have to put Jamie Mullarkey in for the finish upside and the huge scoring upside. I guess I don't mind playing Michael Johnson either, based on the Alan Patrick fight. I mean, Mullarkey has shown, to be not a bit chinny, but, he has a pretty poor chindex, has been knocked down at least once, possibly more than that in the UFC. I don't remember off the top of my head. Why don't we take a look? Let's just take a look. Only once he got knocked down, so I'm leaning Mullarkey, but Mullarkey could also come out here and do Mullarkey things. I think somebody's getting finished in this fight is my point. I'll have a bit of both, but I don't mind, the Mullarkey side at 9,100. Making optimal in 2 out of his last 3 fights is fantastic, so I don't mind that. It is a bit much for Mullarkey, but I don't mind paying that for the scoring numbers that he's putting up. Next fight, Jared Vanderaa going against Chase Sherman, guys. We have 4 fights left to break down, just under half an hour. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please like the video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel also if you like the video. Then you'll never miss anything that I'm putting out as far as UFC content goes. I will also be releasing Supreme Clientele later today with 3 must plays for DraftKings, so be sure to check that out. It'll be about 10 minutes long. And like I said, MMA Engine will have Salary Voodoo on it live later today. We'll be on Pub Sports Radio tonight. We got a ton of stuff going on this week, guys, so thanks a lot, and sub to the channel. We're on the road to 350. You guys absolutely killed it last week, so let's keep the ball going. Thank you so much. Fight of the night right here, Jared Vanderaa going against Chase Sherman. Cannot believe it. I don't even know what to say. Chase Sherman is Chase Sherman. Scores 100 points when he wins, but that hasn't happened since the Ice Age. So we got losses to Romanov, Collier, Porter, Arlovsky. His last win was Ike Villanueva in 2020. Not on the Chase Sherman side really at all. I guess you could play a little bit of him because his opponent is Jared Vanderaa, and who knows, he's been finished 3 times out of his 4 UFC losses. He's also 1-4 in the UFC. You combine these guys' records, 4-13 in the UFC. Both of them score like shit, 2.28 points a minute for Vanderaa, 83 when he wins. Neither one of them allow a ton of points. Vanderaa is $1,100 over his average salary, so if you want to pay up for Vanderaa, be my guest. Chase Sherman, meanwhile, $425 under his average salary. That's not enough savings to get me interested, if you ask me. Sherman, his scoring upside is 0. Yeah, one of these guys is probably getting finished. If I'm leaning Jared Vanderaa finish. I know that sounds absolutely insane. But I can't picture Chase Sherman winning a fight. I can't. Vandeera's lost to Oleinik, Arlovsky, Romanov, and Spivak. Those guys are all infinitely better than Chase Sherman. I don't even know how to express this to you with English words. It's not even close. Vanderaa should absolutely smash this guy. And Vandeera's not a great UFC fighter. Based on the record and the stats, and that's not an opinion, that's like a statistical fact. Finish rate right here. So somebody's going to get finished. I think Sherman, how amazing would it be if Vanderaa finishes Sherman via Ezekiel choke after learning it from Alexei Oleinik after it got used on him in his last fight? Oh, that would be just story for days. I absolutely love that angle. So, I guess give me Vanderaa by sub. I'll have Vanderaa. He's not a ton. 8,600, pretty easy to get to. If you like Chase Sherman, what kind of life choices are you making? If you like Chase Sherman as a fighter, I'm sure he's a good human being, possibly. There's that chance. But if you like Chase Sherman as a fighter, I don't even know what I don't know what your life is like. I probably don't want to know what it's like. It's probably a lot of vanilla pudding. It makes me sad to think about. So put some Chase Sherman in, because who knows what'll happen. What if he makes the optimal? What if he gets a first-round knockout over Vanderaa, because Vanderaa is Vanderaa, lest we forget. So have a bit of both. I'll be much higher on the Vanderaa side, but still, I'm not going to be like 40%, probably. I don't know that. This fight is a joke, dude. I don't know what to do. I'll be much higher on Vanderaa than Sherman. Don't touch that fight for cash. Obviously, I shouldn't even have to say that. Main event of the evening. Said Nurmagomedov going against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Silva de Andrade making the optimal in 2 out of his past 3 fights, and he is $7,000 this week. 1,200 rather under his average salary. Not very impressive when it comes to scoring. 2.5 a minute, 86.5 when he wins. Gives up about that. Talks loudly on the phone about how his dog is loose. Let's see, 33% of the time, so 2 out of 6 wins, he's put up over 90 points. Though actually 2 out of 6, he's put up over 100 points. Let's see, Nurmagomedov, let's go into his numbers. Actually, no, we're not. Douglas Silva de Andrade, decent strength of schedule. I just kind of wanted to look at a couple more things. All right, he is giving up 0.73 points a minute in takedowns and control time, so let's put a pin in that. Nurmagomedov, and this is not, I don't think this is a relation. This is just another Nurmagomedov out there in the world, but not like cousin Umar or anything. Has made the optimal in 1 out of his last, or didn't make the optimal in his last fight, I should say, against Cody Stamann. Quick win bonus, early submission. I believe it was a guillotine. 2.72 points a minute, 104 when he wins. And this is over 4 UFC fights. So I am interested in the Said Nurmagomedov side. Great defense, best on the card. Allows only 1.44 points a minute and 63.5 when he loses. That is just one UFC loss. 740 over his average salary, average value of 10.5. These blow all of Andrade's numbers out of the water. Not even close. 3 of 4 UFC wins over 100 points, 2 of them over 110 for Nurmagomedov. Absolutely love the scoring upside here. And obviously this is not a Khabib relation because only 0.28 points a minute in takedown and control time. That would be much higher if there was an actual relation. Just a guess. In the last, let's see, actually UFC stats, no contest between the two. Nurmagomedov with a much smaller fighting sample size, but he has the much better stats. 34 cage time minutes compared to almost 2 hours for Douglas Silva. Like I said, quick win over Stamann, quick win over Striegel. He's got 2 quick wins in a row, Nurmagomedov here. So that will contribute to his huge scoring upside, 122 and 117. Lost to Barcelos. That's not bad. A first round win over Ricardo Ramos. Actually, I think he is Brazilian, as we discovered a few weeks ago. Ricardo Ramos, as I discovered, I was pronouncing his name incorrectly. Silva de Andrade, big win over Sergey Morozov, big win over Gaetano Pirello, lost to the undefeated Lerone Murphy and Peter Yan in his last 3, in his last 5. So no joke to the guys he's losing to. I like this fight a lot. Obviously, I'll be probably a bit higher on the Nurmagomedov side for the huge scoring upside. But Silva de Andrade only finished twice out of his 4 UFC losses. This guy is hard to finish here. So the question is, if Nurmagomedov does not get that early finish, is he going to score very well? And the answer is probably not. 2.72 points per minute. We have no decision wins in the UFC. Actually, we do. We have a split decision win in which he scored 68 points. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. If he does not get a finish over the tough to finish Silva de Andrade, who is just turned 37, that's not super old, but it is not super young either. So I guess I'll be on the Nurmagomedov side. I don't mind playing a bit of Douglas in case he lands that, that shot, catches Nurmagomedov like he caught Morozov. That's not inconceivable. And he's cheap, 7K. So I don't mind putting him a little bit in there, but Nurmagomedov, I might keep my expectations a little lower just because, like I said, if he doesn't get that finish, he might not score very well at all. Co-main event, I am super excited for this one. Caio Borralho going against Armen Petrosyan. Man, both these guys with 1 UFC fight. Petrosyan, 3.4 points a minute, scored only 81 in that win, coming in $400 cheaper than his average salary. He did make the optimal in that win, scoring only 81, though. Let's see. Borralho going against him, 3.38 points a minute, 77 in his win. His defensive pace, fantastic. Gave up only 1.45 points a minute. He is 1,100 over his average salary, average value of just under 10. Petrosyan's average value is just over 10. I'll be playing both sides of this fight. Petrosyan given up 0.86 points a minute in takedowns and control time, while Borralho scored 1.68 points in those same categories. So it looks like we have striker versus grappler here. According to the stats, I know Armen can probably grapple a bit as well, but has not shown it in his 1 UFC fight, but it was against RoboCop, so what do you want to do? He did show a little bit, as I recall. I guess, yeah, he got up from 2 takedowns. That's right. He avoided the submissions. That's why I was remembering it. So good showing there. A very good strength of schedule from both guys, which is surprising. Usually when we have young incoming UFC fighters with not a ton of UFC fights, their strength of schedule is, obviously a bit lower than average. Not these guys. These guys have great strength of schedules. Every category over 70 for the most part. Yeah, very impressive showings from both guys. Just neither guy scored a ton of points, which is kind of what I'm a bit worried about here, especially with that high salary from Borralho. I will have both of these guys rostered for sure. But again, if this goes to decision, which it might, How are they going to score? 77 and 81, so 80 points. That's not going to pay off anyone's salary. It'll pay off the Petrosyan salary. Maybe he could make the optimal again with some lower scores around him, but lately we've been seeing some very high scores make the optimal. I like both sides. I'm probably leaning Borralho because of the size. Actually, wow, I read this wrong. Petrosyan's 6'3". Borralho is 5 inches shorter than that, but with a 4-inch reach advantage. Southpaw versus Orthodox. I like the Borralho side, but Petrosyan is no joke. Whoever wins this fight is going to be a contender, I think, for sure. So I like both sides. As far as picking, I'm picking Borralho, but I'll probably be pretty close as far as exposure just because of the huge salary gap here. I have a feeling this one's going to be closer than 89 and 73. You know what I mean? Like, I just have a feeling it's going to be a bit closer than that. Guys, last fight, we're at 40 minutes. Let's go. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you, most importantly, thank you for spending time with me. Hopefully these stats are helping you out. Pair it with your fight tape, pair it with Salary Voodoo, and some of the other shows we have on MMA Engine, and there's no way you guys will not be absolutely ready to make wagers and to play DraftKings lineups and get those takedowns. So thank you a ton, and I really hope this information is helpful. Final fight of the night, main card, the battle of the Rafaels, or Rafael. It's the battle of the pronunciation. Here we go. Winner has to either pronounce the R or not pronounce the R, guys. That's just how it's going to be. Dos Anjos, $7,200. This guy has 31 UFC fights compared to 6 for Fiziev. Fiziev 62, almost 63 cage time minutes. Very impressive on 6 fights. Dos Anjos has a few more than that. 453 UFC minutes, guys. 3 points per minute. 104 when he wins. This is a 31 fight UFC sample size. He's putting up numbers like this. Allows only 2.6 points a minute back at him. 103.8 when he loses. So he does score a ton and give up a ton. So it's a double-edged sword with RDA here. He's also coming in $1,027 under his average salary. We got him at a very low price last time, $7,300, but I forget who his original opponent was. Dropped out like during fight week after salaries had already come out. So his opponent becomes Renato Moicano, I believe. Yes. And Moicano ends up being like 7,200, so it was a 72 versus 73, blah, blah, blah. Dos Anjos should have been much higher, but they don't adjust salaries like that for obvious reasons. So we have seen him this low before, and he did more than pay his salary off, demolishing Moicano, scoring 154 points in a 5-round fight. My goodness. So there he is. If you didn't think he's capable, he's capable. Average value in 31 UFC fights, 9.41. Guys, when he loses, he also scores 28.25 on average. That's the third best number on the card. Fiziev scores less, 2.85 a minute, only 77.94 points per win. That was extremely surprising to see. Gives up 2.36, so a good defensive pace, but in his one loss, gave up 90 points, average value of 8. And he's coming in $600 over his average salary. Meanwhile, RDA, 111 when he wins by KO, 102 when he wins by sub, just under 100 when he wins by decision, and 135 when he wins by split decision. My goodness. Meanwhile, Fiziev, when he wins by knockout, 90. When he wins by decision, 70. These numbers for Fiziev are not, I thought they would be better than this. They are not good. Dos Anjos, 15 out of 20 fights, or 20 wins rather, in the UFC. He's put up over 90. 11 of those 20 wins over 100, and 6 of them over 110. So this guy is scoring everywhere, still scoring, averaging over 1.1 points per minute in takedowns and control time. Fiziev has fantastic takedown defense. I think it's like 96%. Maybe better, and only gives up 0.13 points in those two categories combined. So probably not going to see a ton of that, but if Dos Anjos can land a takedown, that will be very interesting to see what happens then. Two great fighters, guys. 2 of the top 3 fighters on the card, according to metrics. Both really good strength of schedules, but RDA does take the cake there. 76, 75, 74, and 80. While we're at 72s for Fiziev. No defeats, though, in his past 5. He is undefeated in his past 5, just dropping his UFC debut. I believe it was to Mustayev. And he did get finished, I believe, KO'd in the KO TKO in that fight. Dos Anjos is on a two-fight streak, beating Paul Felder and Renato Moicano, as I mentioned. Losses to Chiesa and Edwards. Not too bad of a resume here, and he's been scoring very well. He put up 135 against Felder in a 5-round fight. Split decision, so is scoring pretty well. 98, almost 99 when he beat Kevin Lee. That was a 4th-round sub. Projections. However you think this one's going to go, here's how Computer Monk thinks it will score. Higher in every category for Dos Anjos, as that is not surprising now that I'm looking at the numbers here. I don't mind. God, I don't know, man. I was going to say I don't mind this for cash, but I honestly don't know who's going to win. Because I have 8+ years younger than Dos Anjos. But Dos Anjos is Dos Anjos, and the scoring upside for him is fantastic, and the salary relief that you're going to get from Dos Anjos, he'll be in a ton of my lineups this week, my GPP lineups. This is my favorite underdog, probably, out of all of them. And at 7,200, you're getting 104 points per win. Fiziev is going to come in here, probably the faster guy. He's probably not going to be stronger. It's going to depend on if RDA can take down Fiziev. I don't see that happening in the first 2 rounds, but if he can last, he can obviously last, but if this goes past 10 minutes, Fiziev might get tired. I mean, we'll have to see. RDA's been in countless 5-round fights. Fiziev has yet to be in a 5-round fight. That would have been a 3-rounder. Yeah, has not been in a 5-round fight. So let's test that cardio if I'm Dos Anjos. I want to see what happens in the late 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. See if I can start landing some takedowns, getting some control time. But Dos Anjos is scoring from everywhere, man. So I'm not too worried about him. I'll be very high on that side. I'll have some Fiziev too, because you'd be a fool not to play it. I'm not going to be stacking this one. The last fight, I was going to say the last fight for Dos Anjos you probably stacked, but you probably didn't. Yeah, I'm not going to be stacking this main event, most likely. Fiziev just does not score well enough. 78 when he wins. I mean, unless he flatlines RDA in the first round or two, and that's only happened once. I mean, he's only been finished 3 times out of 11 UFC losses, so I don't see that happening. I like this one to go the distance. If it does finish, I like RDA to be the one finishing. So I'll be much higher on the RDA side, I think, than on the Fiziev side, but this is going to be an absolute banger. Like I said, one of these guys is going to have to change the pronunciation of their first name. I don't know who that's going to be, but I am very much looking forward to this one. So guys, we did it. All 12 fights from a DraftKings perspective in the books, under 50 minutes as usual. I want to thank you all one more time for joining me. I know you're sick of hearing it, but I really am thankful that you're choosing to spend time watching some stats and whatnot, some DFS analysis from your boy, the Monk Matician. So thanks again. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll try to put all the links to all the other shows in the description, so check that out if you need some more UFC DFS content. So guys, nothing else to say. You know what it is. I want all of you to enjoy the fights. So enjoy, and we will see you next time.